I have the distinct pleasure of announcing our keynote speaker today, Cassini Nazir. Cassini is with the University of North Texas. He is a specialist in interaction design, and what really resonated with me in getting to know Cassini as part of this process is what we do as ergonomists. You know, as ergonomists, we look at how do we make the workplace fit the worker. There is that interaction between the worker and the workplace. So it was really a pleasure getting to know Cassini through the process of preparing for this. He also specializes in focusing on curiosity, and that was another piece that really resonated as an ergonomist, and I think it will resonate with you. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring up Cassini. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Tom. Well, howdy. I love that. My name's Cassini Nazir, as Tom said, and today I'm hoping that we'll discover that curiosity is everywhere. It's all around us, it's in the middle of things, and important to the work that you do as ergonomists. Like I said, my name's Cassini Nazir, and sometimes people get that wrong. I don't know if this helps, but Cassini, like the space probe that crashed into Saturn in 2017, it's been nice knowing you. Or the fashion designer Oleg Cassini, his last name, my first name. But maybe the most important thing that you should know about me is probably like you, I've always looked at the world a little bit differently. This is me at the ripe old age of 1, taking a close look at the world from the ground up. And today's session is going to be a little bit interactive, so why don't we all get on the floor and take a look at the world? No, never mind. I could see the enthusiasm in your faces for that. But maybe our first lesson is that our curiosity is able to be influenced. You can see me there on the floor, but if you look in the corner, you'll see my mom looking and watching sort of patiently there, and letting me be curious, but also making sure that I don't get into too much trouble. I also have to thank my father for my curiosity. After all, we basically had the same haircut. That's me on the left, by the way. And here's my dad telling me a joke. That's me crying. And here's my dad trying to feed us lunch as well. And I'm sure that you two, when you think about curiosity, you probably go back to a moment in your childhood and think, I was really curious then. And today, my hope is that we can go back and retrieve a couple of things, take them with us, and we can put that forward in the work that you do here as well. I teach in the College of Visual Arts and Design at the University of North Texas, and specifically I teach interaction design. And that's about creating conversations usually between people and digital experiences. And conversations are ongoing, they're two-way, and so we build experiences that ideally are enjoyable while also being usable. And there's a lot of overlap in the work that you do and the work that I do. And our building offers many things that allow students to explore that curiosity: digital fabrication, wood shopping, machining, dedicated studio spaces that you're seeing here. And it's a wonderful space. If you're ever in town, I would love to give you a tour of our building. But specifically, my research explores what I think of as a strange, fascinating, and fragile phenomenon of being curious. Curiosity is like a spring that will undo itself if you're not attentive to it and you don't sort of hold it just right. In today's talk, I'm hoping that I can cover 3 main topics. What does designing for people that are a little bit different from us, people who we may not have much in common with, what does it reveal about who we are? How does it surface our own assumptions? And then how can curiosity help overcome these limitations? Now, I'm guessing that you probably did a few of these things today. The person next to you, I think, is hoping that you bathed. It looks to me, as far as I can tell, that you dressed today. I'm assuming you ate as well, and I guess as I look out there, that's what passes for grooming these days. Just joking. And I saw many of you walk in here quite easily. Now, you're wondering what I'm going to say about that last one. I'm not going to touch it, but these are what health professionals call activities of daily living. And these are the basic tasks that a health professional checks to see how well can a person take care of themselves independently. But not everybody is able to do these activities with ease. I'd like to introduce you to Zebreda Dunham. And my undergraduate user experience design class got to work with Zebreda and meet Zebreda. She was an inspiration for this project, and I think you'll find her to be an inspiration as well. Take a close look at the picture. What do you notice? Well, maybe you've noticed that Zebreda's in a wheelchair. You can see the controller over there on the far right of the picture. And that seatbelt also comes with the seatbelt so that Zebreda doesn't slip out. And you may notice that one of her hands is rotated backwards. And I'm sure, just like you, she carries a potato masher as well. But let's take a second look at Zebreda. What do you notice in this picture? You might notice that Zebreda's wearing a helmet. And in this picture, you might notice that she's a double amputee as well. And we now have a view of her other hand, so you can see that both of her hands are turned around. And finally, you may have noticed that she carries a lot of gear with her as well. Now, Zebreda was born with a condition called arthrogryposis multiplex congenital. And it's a rare condition where essentially babies in the womb don't move around. And so what ends up happening, because the bones are so young, they're not able, because they don't move around, they're not able to form correctly and they get stuck in place. About 50,000 people in the US are born with this condition. And you can imagine some of the challenges that Zebreda has with those activities of daily living. Zebreda navigates a world that wasn't designed really for her body in mind. And how Zebreda achieves these activities of daily living is different than you or I. And she uses design to fill the gap between her needs and available manufactured goods. You may also notice that the video that I'm going to play here, Zebreda has a smile in every single photo here. Let's get to know her a little bit better.
Zebreda Dunham has never let her physical challenges stop her from playing power soccer in her wheelchair.
So I devised a pole that will help me reach pretty much any light switch.
To sharing her creative creations on her YouTube channel to help others with disabilities. The 44-year-old says can't isn't in her vocabulary.
Because I pretty much was determined to figure out a way to do whatever I need to have done. I don't really see it as being labeled as having a disability. I feel normal.
A self-described MacGyver, Zebreda is well known for her work creating and adapting a wide range of tools. Her apartment packed with toolboxes and supplies of every kind.
Anything that I have in that box, those boxes can help me create a masterpiece that I'm thinking of.
The Pasadena City Council recently honoring the 44-year-old for her creativity and work to help others facing similar challenges. From a light switch helper to a spoon pulley to help her eat, Zebreda is always thinking of ways to make life a little easier. Her message, never give up.
If you're a person with disability and you need something, think out of the box. You know, anything that you may need, or talk about it. Somebody else might have an idea that might help you with it.
Now, Zebreda is very much an inspiration. And the more that you get to know Zebreda, you'll see that she thinks outside of the box. You can see here that she's wearing headphones. But when things are likely to fall off and it's very difficult for a person to pick them up, you have to come up with ways to keep that headphone in place. And Zebreda has come up with tremendously creative ways to do that. Opening the door for somebody with arthrogryposis can be tremendously challenging, particularly if it's not a push door. And Zebreda has come up with multiple ways through objects that you would find very easily at Home Depot or Lowe's to be able to interact with the world around here. Here you're seeing that a sort of a chain connected to a hook allows her to be able to move that and open that door. Here is that spoon pulley that we saw a moment ago that allows Zebreda not just to feed herself, but to have a level of dignity as well. And you can see that once she's able to get the spoon to that position, with her other arm, she can then raise that spoon up and be able to feed herself. But what about that potato masher? Well, Zebreda attaches that to a metal pipe, and this is how Zebreda has finger foods. And what about that helmet that we saw a moment ago? Well, this is what Zebreda told my students.
So when I go outside, I'm not able to wear sunglasses because I can't take them on off my face. I wear a face shield. If I want to put the face shield down, I can't use my hands, right? So I use my head like this. Ready? Put it down. Then put it back up. I do it like this. Use my face, my head rests. I can do it this. There you go, it's back up.
Now, Zebreda is amazing and very much, as I said, an inspiration. But in conversation, when one of my students asked, is there anything that you can't do currently that you would like to? She said that she wished that she, by herself, could be able to do what many of us here take for granted. And that's a basic function of using the bathroom independently. And I want to challenge you that the work that you do is as much about dignity as it is anything else. And there's an amount of dignity that you restore to individuals when you allow them to be able to do their work independently and to be able to do it well. And maybe as you've noticed as ergonomists, that people often adapt to discomfort and they stop reporting it. They don't think of it as discomfort anymore because they've created accommodations for that. And this was the mindset that my students took to working with individuals who have challenges with ADLs. Last year, 18 of my undergraduates worked with Zebreda and Mike Courtney, who's here today, who sponsored the project to conduct research with 20 different caregivers and disabled adults. They worked with 5 communities here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and they built 6 accessible do-it-yourself products. And they also built a smart finder that I'll walk you through. But my students took this idea of what could we find that's under $20 roughly at a Home Depot or Lowe's and build with that. Here we're seeing a wrist-mounted assistive device for users with limited hand dexterity or in some cases no hand as well, that allows them to be able to interact on the outside of the hand rather than the inside and to be able to draw or put on makeup or anything else that you might do with a utensil like that. You can immediately see problems with this utensil. It's actually not that safe, but the miracle here for this student was learning how to 3D print and 3D print with food-safe materials. That pink that you're seeing there is not a specific color choice. It's food-safe materials that one could actually put inside of the dishwasher and safely put in their mouth without any challenges. This next piece that a student created, it's deceivingly simple. They went through about 10 different iterations, many of them using wood and cardboard and interacting until they found in their garage something that would suffice as a leg lift that you probably have in your pantry. A simple broom and a mop, a simple dustpan that allows an individual to be able to lift their legs and move it very easily. It was interesting because we went through a variety of these devices, and when this individual found this, the student, they realized it's really taking things that exist and using them for alternative purposes. And finally, this group of students, they actually were designing for their family members. What you're looking at here, this is a shampoo kit that connects to an iPhone holder that is basically taking an automatic hand dispenser, and instead of hand soap, it's shampoo. The student, her sister, couldn't raise her hand above her shoulder. And as a result of this, she couldn't actually shampoo her hair or wash her hair. And this device allowed her sister to be able to, again, live with dignity and to be able to do something that we take for granted. This device was a plate that keeps food stable, just like a camera that has a gimbal on it or a gyroscope that keeps objects in sort of space. You can see it there. This allows her oppa, her grandfather, to be able to sit in either his bed or his chair where he tends to be and allow the plate to stabilize. And then lastly, a student, her father was in a car accident. And this device, it's a little hard to see, but you can see that there's a toothbrush. You put your mouth into the toothbrush rather than the brush up to your face. And it allows her father to be able to brush his teeth without being able to have the use of his hands. We learned a lot in this, in doing this. My students, again, last year were able to present their work at the Abilities Expo here in Dallas at the end of December. And last year's keynote speaker, Mike Courtney, worked with us to be able to do that. But one of the ways that designers understand people and the ways that my students understand people, unlike them, is through this idea of empathy. Now, I don't know if empathy has a great role in ergonomics, but I want to explore that just for a second, and then I want to show you how curiosity can make up for things that empathy may not be able to do. Empathy helps us to bridge this gap between ourselves and others. And if I had to map this out, let me get a little mathematical here for you. It would look like an asymptote. Now, this is the relationship that we have between ourselves and others. And if you remember from sort of 8th grade math, the idea is that an asymptote is a line that never crosses another line, right? It's never going to touch. Well, you're you, so that line that says self, you understand yourself and you're the expert on you. So of course it intersects with you. But the farther away that you escape yourself and interact with others, it never touches because you can only understand them so well. And you can see that that line never intersects. Well, the further we get away from ourselves, and that perspective that's informed by our own views and our own understandings, the closer we get to somebody else, and a perspective that's informed by their view and their understandings. And when we move from A to B, we're still in our own sort of mind space. But when we move from B to C, to escape our perspective and understand others, that's where we begin to have an empathetic understanding. And sometimes taking the perspective of others is as simple as this. We can see the other person's perspective from where we are. It doesn't require us to be able to move our position or think too hard because we can see from their perspective that what they're seeing is slightly different from us. And this works well for people who are similar to us. For people who share mental models, expressions, or ways of being. As I was walking around the conference, I heard words like anthropometry, reach envelope, and context stress, words that I don't use very often. But what about people who are a little bit different from us, who use words or think about the world a little bit differently? We don't communicate as easily with them, and it's not that we can't, but we sometimes mean different things when we use the same words. And sometimes what we think the other person is seeing is so vastly different from what we are perceiving that a penguin can look like a giraffe. It just depends on which side of the table that you're looking. That if we don't get up out of our seats and take their perspective, we may never see it. Now, I understand, this is all very academic, so let's understand this bodily. If I can ask you to just stand up with me for a moment. And if you would, as far as you can, just stretch out your hands and maybe take a good stretch over to one side, whichever side you like, as far as you can go. That probably feels good. And then let's do it on the other side. That feels really good. Thank you. I just needed to do that. No. Do this with me. Right hand in the ear, your index finger. Be careful which finger you put up there. And what I want you to do is to trace out the way that a clock goes in the sky. 12, 3, 6, 9. 12, 3, 6, 9. It's like you're tracing out that clock in the ceiling. You got it. Now, I did this once at a conference, and I think the person had maybe a little bit too much to drink because they were doing this number. Looks like you're doing it correctly here. 12, 3, 6, 9. Good. Now, keep doing that. 12, 3, 6, 9. Keep doing that. And what I want you to do is to slowly bring that down to, while you're keeping the clock going, to maybe about shoulder length right here. And as you're keeping moving that, take a look, which direction is your clock moving now? Have a seat. I'll explain. Well, I'll help you work it out. A moment ago, I asked you to do something, and you were looking up, and you were seeing that it was going the direction that a clock goes. And slowly over time, we changed position, and we didn't realize that our viewpoint, our vantage, had actually changed. So that what was once clockwise, as we were looking up at it, when we look down at it, is now counterclockwise. Two people can look at the same thing and see two different things. And this is the perspective of escaping ourselves and understanding what that means to another person. Now, part of this is empathy, part of this is curiosity, and I'll unpack both here in a moment. But if we think about empathy, true empathy takes time. I've added units, hours, days, months, years, decades, lifetimes. And empathy is a skill that can grow over time. You can become more empathetic, and your empathic capacity can be greater so that what once took months may take weeks, or what once took weeks may take days. And if it can grow, then it can also shrink as well. And I'll say that as I'm in my 40s, the photo that I showed a few of my father, who was in his 40s when I was a child, I now understand him better than I did when I was that age because it's taken me 40 years to do that. But empathy is a very powerful capacity. And I think this quote from Margaret Mead is absolutely powerful. Always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. And empathy does have its limits. I want to show you one. This is The Mask Maker from Marcel Marceau. And it powerfully portrays a mime who tries on different masks, showing a variety of different emotions. When he puts on a laughing mask, it gets stuck on his face. He tries desperately, but it won't come off. The mime has to blind himself to take it off his face. And off it comes. Relieved, but broken. We choose to not extend our empathy because of its reciprocal effect on us. I don't know if you remember the videos that I grew up with or the commercials that I grew up with, Sally Struthers in the 80s, or the Save the Children videos, or, right? It's sometimes we choose to not extend our empathy because of the effect that it has on us. And I will say that there is a powerful way that we can still achieve an understanding of humans around us without having to exercise that empathy. It's curiosity. Curiosity is a motivation to explore. It's very, very simple, and it arises when there's this gap between what we know and what we want to know. And what we actually do with curiosity is we try to put those two triangles back together and bridge that gap between what we know and what we want to know. And coaxing curiosity to come forward is challenging. When it does appear, it can either leave us scratching our heads, murmuring, huh, to one another, or it can leave us scratching our chins, reflectively murmuring, to ourselves. Now, is it possible to build experiences where we avoid the huh and we go with the These are very scholarly words that I'm using here for you as well. Well, curiosity is an emotion, so let's start there. This is Robert Plutchik's wheel of emotion that shows 8 basic emotions that, when combined, yield the petals that you see around. And these are the 24 additional emotions. And like colors on a color wheel, they can be combined. He organizes them by how often we feel them. Often felt emotions, sometimes felt emotions, and sometimes felt emotion. Or excuse me, seldom felt emotions. And curiosity is a sometimes felt emotion. Curiosity requires 2 key things for it to appear. That base emotion of trust must be there. It requires some kind of bond, and in a similar way to empathy, it requires a level of vulnerability, and that trust can certainly be broken or abused. But that emotion of trust is necessary, but it's not enough. We require that element of surprise, and that's a response to the unexpected. It forces us to stop, reevaluate, and reorient ourselves and recalibrate what we thought. We need both emotions for us to cultivate curiosity. Now, earlier I told you that curiosity is fragile, and here's a different way of viewing it. Trust and surprise yield curiosity, but if you add joy, you can actually have the emotion of delight. But if you add sadness, we can also, when combined with surprise, can yield disappointment. And there's any range of emotions that can come along the way that we can hopscotch into. And although we feel curiosity sometimes, there are ways that we can, as I said, coax it to come forward. It all starts with an invitation. Some object, some system, some experience invites us to be curious, some person. And invitations adopt a variety of approaches that can elicit a spectrum of emotions. But it has to be interesting, and we have to be interested. Otherwise, that curiosity evaporates. And most invitations require us to act or respond in some way. We don't always perceive invitations as such, and so they can be accepted, of course, but they can also be rejected or ignored. My father, he's in his 80s, and he's been writing a book. In that book that he gave me a draft of, it took me a few months to open it and to read it. But I remember reading a passage where my father was talking about that curly-haired young boy sitting on red carpet. And that photo that I was telling you about was something that it took me a while to respond. And if we do respond, there's that inflection point where surprise can happen. And if we accept it and act upon it, well, there's a moment that we cannot expect. Now, not every response, I have to admit, is rewarded. Kicking over a rock can reveal a diamond underneath. It can add dust to our shoes, or it can reveal a danger before us. We will never know whether or not that's the case. We have to exercise our curiosity. And the work that I do builds this framework into experiences, and I've worked with a variety of companies to be able to do that. I may have given it away, but I want to try to do this here with you and show you this example here. What I want you to do is to put your hands to the side of your face like this, and then I want you to put your hands in front of your face like this, and then back to the side, and then again back to the front, And then you can put your hands down. If we continue doing that, and there was a young child in front of us, what did we just do? It's a game of peekaboo, right? It's the simplistic version of this framework in action. You invite playfulness in the child, and they have the condition where if they don't see your face, they think you're no longer there. So putting your hands in front of your face makes them a little bit inquisitive. You respond by showing them your face once again, and this connection can happen again and again. And like I was mentioning to you, we've used this framework on a variety of projects. My students worked with CVS Health and Signify Health to build trust during in-home health evaluations. We worked with the mission that, on an exhibit that was the mission after the Challenger, that at some point we hope will go inside of the Smithsonian Museum. And we worked on the unboxing experience for blind individuals of an assistive device. But I want to tell you that in a world where the rate of change is increasing, the value of the answers that we once had in the past is less valuable, and what becomes more valuable are the new questions that we have, because things are changing so quickly. So I want to give you some practical things. I'm often asked, Cassini, what are some things that I can do practically to sort of strengthen my curiosity? And I'm going to give you what I like to call kettlebells for curiosity. The first is try using the phrase, tell me more. So what's that sound like? This is the part where you say, tell me more. There we go. That phrase can be very, very powerful. It's not really asking a question, but it's inviting more information from a person. So once again, that sounds like, there we go. I'm glad you asked. Here's another. Try using the phrase else. What else? How else? Why else? Because we may have found an answer to something, but there might be others that are lurking, and those answers themselves might be a better fit for what we're trying to achieve. So what's that sound like? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can also ask more frequently, what surprised you? If you're a manager and you want your team to discover things and bring things back, if you ask them what surprised you consistently, followed by another question that I'll give you here in a moment, you can signal to your team that I'm looking for you to discover new things. The former CEO of Intuit, Scott Cook, used to ask this question, what surprised you? And when his team would bring back the answer, he then asked, what are you going to do about it? Those two questions can be really, really powerful. I should have asked you to ask that question. One of the things that you can do is change your meeting agendas to questions. What are the things that you're looking for? And I challenge you today to do something new or different. And if you do that regularly, you will find that your curiosity will grow. Now, lastly, we tend to think of curiosity as sort of from the neck up. And I want you, just for a moment here as we wrap, I want you to sit as if you were anything but curious. I want you to just embody boredom for a moment. What does that look like? What does that look like? Yeah, some of you, the position hasn't changed, but you slouch in your chair, right? You lean a little bit, right? It's as if your body has sort of lost all of its bones and it's escaping. Now, what does that look like when you're actually curious? What does curiosity look like, right? It's where you sit forward, right? Physically, you can see the difference. And as ergonomists, I want you to know that curiosity is not just a mindset, but it's also a posture. And it's a whole body experience that we have. You've given it a try here as well. And I want to leave you with something that I think is really valuable. The slant method is really powerful. If you want to be more curious, sit up, lean forward, ask questions, nod your head, and track whoever's speaking. It's deceivingly simple, but these things can make you more curious as well. So as I close this talk, and as we explore that curiosity is all around us, it's everywhere, it's in the middle of things, I want to ask, can curiosity also be found in you. Thank you very much.
Just a little challenge for all of our ergo people out there. We've all heard this before. You need to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you are serving as an ergonomist. So I think the curiosity and the empathy part fits what we do exceptionally well. Thank you very much, Cassini. We've got speakers.